All information given in this episode is for educational purposes and should not be tried prior to consulting a licensed physician and or certified state or accrediting bodies. We encourage all listeners to research, talk, and make all inquiries to all of the important professionals and governing bodies before acting on any information heard on the De La Fit podcast. Any action taken by any listener is done by and under their own omission and action, whether conscious to the results positive or not.
Tuned in to the De La Fit podcasts, 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health, all in one podcast.
Salutations and proclamations. It is I, it is you, it is us, it is we. Together we make up the digital family that is the De La Fit podcast. I'm your host, Philly's #1 son, aka the Body Alchemist, Sun Moon Bay, bringing you another podcast excursion. Welcome everybody and happy Friday. We have a tremendous show for everyone who is tuning in today. We are going to be talking with previous guest Echo Haung. Echo, many of you might remember, came on the show to talk about xenophobia and novel coronavirus within the Asian community, how Asian Americans were being mistreated based on the prejudice and fear of coronavirus. She is back to talk about wealth management, to talk about how to prepare as we go forward in a post-pandemic world dealing with our finances. This is a pre-recorded show, this particular interview, and I just want to make mention of that because this was about probably 2 weeks prior before the events of George Floyd and the protests and many other things that have taken place. As I've said in other broadcasts, a lot of our guests are very, very busy. They are extremely active in their communities and within their careers and their professions. Many of them are public speakers. Some of them are international speakers. So when we're able to get some time to talk to a specific guest, we tend to like to record and keep that there, and at times it depends on what is needed at that moment to as to how we pick which show will be brought up on a specific time. We already picked this specific time to talk about finance and the pandemic, and we thought that it was still a viable and something that needed to be done right now. But we will be talking and addressing the George Floyd incident and many of the protests in future interviews. But we felt that this was also something that was very appropriate for right now. So that's why there's no mention of any protests or any of the other things that's going on. But just so that you all know, we will be addressing this. This is not something we're avoiding. Anyway, I know you all are going to enjoy this interview with Echo Haung. She is just a wonderful person, full of energy and just excitement where it comes to her passion of helping people navigate their finances to develop wealth. So we're going to get right into this conversation right now, right after these sponsors. So let's do it. De La Fit podcast is sponsored by Mountain Made CBD. Mountain Made is changing the CBD game by offering a line of high-dose CBD tablets at an affordable price. Their products are THC-free and third-party tested for accuracy, cleanliness, and potency. Their products, which ship nationwide, include Build for CBD saturation, Boost for precision titration, Recovery for rest and rehab. With 9 years experience in hemp and fitness, Mountain Made's founders are focused on creating a quality product to help those who live an activated lifestyle. Check out www.mountainmade.life to find out more about how their products can help you crush life. Remember, Their products ship nationwide. Go check out their website today and follow them on social media at MNTMADE. I started using Mountain Made's Build CBD tablets to help me with the injury in my elbow. And let me tell you something. Not only is the injury subsided, but now I can do push-ups and I'm back to bench pressing. So I encourage anybody who's interested to look up, check out Mountain Made and all their products. I think you'll be glad you did. What's going on, everybody? It's Philly's #1 son. Listen, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's a creation tool that allows you how to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a stunning podcast in one place. So listen, if you want to be like me and have your own podcast, go to Anchor.com. That's Anchor.com.
You're now tuned in to the De La Fit podcast.
Welcome back to the 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health that is the De La Fit podcast. Everybody, what we're dealing with right now, we're consistently worried about the coronavirus and the media and things that are continuously barraging us. One of the main impacts of the pandemic is, of course, finances. That is a worry of most Americans, basically is the worry of the world, but hitting us directly here in the Western Hemisphere is a worry of many individuals. We have a record of unemployment that is unprecedented at this time, which leaves the question for many of us, what do we do? What do we do financially? What do I do financially? Well, my guest is a returning guest. It is the amazing Echo Haung. If everybody that tuned in remembers Echo, she joined us for our conversation dealing with coronavirus and xenophobia. So she has come back to join us to talk about something that is also in her bag, which is finance. Those of you that remember, Echo Haung is the founder of Echo Wealth Management. Echo, are you there at this time? Make sure.
Yes, I am here. I'm very pleased to be on the show. I am talking to you right now in my office in the Twin Cities.
Awesome. We're going to just get right into this because I know we have a lot of questions and there's a lot of information that I know that you want to give. And plus, I don't know if things have opened up back where you are. There's different states and cities. Everybody's kind of half open, half not open. So the whole schedule for people have changed. I talked to another guest and they were like, hey, we're back open, so I can only talk for so long. So
yeah, it's kind of opening this week in Minnesota. So finally I can get my dog for the haircut appointment this Sunday. This is like a third time I'm trying to schedule the haircut for my dog. But anyway, for my firm, we have decided to continue to work from home mainly in May because we can. And I just feel that at this moment, it's still safer to work from home. Maybe we can change it in June, but for me, I think it's a good decision to stay at home a little bit longer and see how everything will go.
I totally agree. I know our Governor Wolf here, we were scheduled for midnight last night to go into a 3-tier system, basically where we have colors. So it's red, yellow, green. Green is, of course, when we're all opened up. Yellow, we were going to start opening up some businesses and he was going to allow individuals to kind of matriculate throughout society. But he has extended it here in Pennsylvania for the southeastern corridor. So basically, we're still in red and we won't get out of red until June the 4th. So yeah, we're still in lockdown here. We're just kind of waiting it out. But with that being said, let's talk about finances, Echo. So one major thing that many individuals out there are worried about is how is this pandemic going to affect our economy and how is it going to affect specifically middle class and lower income brackets? So what can we expect going forward with our money?
Yeah. as you probably have heard, the unemployment rate went up to 14.7%.
Yeah.
I would say that is the worst since Great Depression. So it is the worst during my lifetime. So I think going forward, in terms of our economy, it will not look good for quite a while because, of course, that depends on how well we handle the coronavirus in the U.S. And we know that every single state is quite different too, because some states really even haven't done enough, right, to flatten the curve. So for me, I feel like there are two things we need to definitely think about. The economy, we need to be prepared that may take a long time to get back to what we consider like the growing. Right now, we are pretty much in the ditch, even though the government has decided to print a lot of money to help people. So I think for the economy, we need to expect this is not something that would suddenly come back. I would urge everyone to prepare for a more long haul in terms of a recovery. And the other thing people do need to think about is, yes, for people who don't have a jobs right now, that is the urgent issue they need to solve. They must look at various resources, right, to get through the next several months. Of course, they must keep trying to get the government benefit, whatever benefit that are available to people who are, who don't have jobs right now or at low income tax bracket. On the other hand, I also want people to think about, yes, we are having tough time right now and uncertainty is always going to be there. I want to remind people that we need to be cautious and alert. But I really don't want people to feel fearful to a point where they're paralyzed and they are not doing things that they can control. So the reason why I want to bring that up is we have been affected by not just the job loss, we also feel threatened in terms of personal health, right? This is kind of like a combination of a Great Depression and a pandemic at the same time.
Correct.
So it's something that I think people need to be prepared. This is not something suddenly will just get better and go away like magic. But I also want them to look at their own situation and anticipate that, okay, right now, what do I need to prepare to get through the next several months? For people who still have a job, for people who don't have a job, as I said, they will have to ask for help. And I really want people to remember that. And I know some people may feel kind of shameful to even, asking for help. But I think when people don't have enough resources, I want them to think about this is a temporary situation. You should not feel shameful if you know you need to get through the government, benefit program or even asking other people for help temporarily to get through the tough time. For people who have jobs, but they still don't have very high income because they don't have enough emergency saving. I want them to focus on the things they can control, meaning that it's time to review their budget right now extremely carefully to create what I consider bare bone budget. You know how that is? It's like, right. Okay, my original budget, hopefully, most people have rough idea of, every single month how much they need, right? But now it's more important to review item by item. Focus on those 4 things like essential expenses first. So first is housing. You absolutely want to make sure if you could call your lender or bank and say, what can you do to help me if delay payment for a few months or whatever you can do, because you need to live in a home. So housing is number 1. I guess most people must have. And the second thing is just food and groceries. Right. All right. Obviously, you're going to be cooking at home. And the third thing is the way I see is insurance, right? I mean, you got to take care of your health. So a lot of things cannot cut because you must have proper insurance. I just think the insurance, food, and of course clothes would be the basic clothes. So those are 4 things I see people need to make sure they have money for those 4. And then a lot of other items, they will just have to make decisions and say, you know what, I just need to cut during this kind of time frame, and I need to be saving more by cutting out discretionary spending, such as the way I think about it. Obviously, right now you can't travel. So in a way, you're saving money in that area.
Right.
And I think also transportation, right? I mean, you're probably saving money on transportation, travel, cutting out. Obviously, you don't eat out or even reduce taking out. Just reduce the taking out food and make that at home. And gym membership, personally, I think each person need to make their decision to stay healthy in a way that they can afford. So that's like 4 things I want people to focus on. And then increase the emergency fund to at least 6 months of living expenses, at least. Because even for people who have jobs, if this thing doesn't improve in the next 6 months, will they lose their job and do they have enough cushion to help them? So that's what my advice to people right now, especially for low income and, middle income family, is to really start controlling the things they can control and do their best to remain healthy and be less fearful so they're not paralyzed and not doing anything. Another thing I want to remind people is for people who have investments in the stock market, people do need to remember economy and stock market, they are not exactly going up and down at the same time. So sometimes people when they don't understand, they kind of say, well, the economy is so bad, why should I have money in stock market? Right? Because they kind of think about, if this is in the ditch, I'm not going to even put any money in my investment portfolio like 401k or IRA.
Right.
And I want people to be very cautious about that notion because no one can predict the stock market precisely how it's going to do when it went down so quickly end of February and March. And, if you were fearful and you got out of the stock market after it tanked 35%, well, you are going to regret right now because we covered 20-some%, right? So I want people to be very cautious not to make those decisions based on fear. They still need to follow discipline principle, in terms of investment.
So don't let the emotions get you. If you have investments in the stock market, don't let your emotions get you to just pull all your money out.
Yes, it's so important. I always want to caution people. And, if the example is, I think we are human beings, right? We are structured in a way we tend to act on emotions. I mean, when we are fearful, the decisions we make are generally exactly the wrong decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something we call behavioral finance, unlike traditional finance. And, traditional finance theory believe that every investors are rational.
Okay.
In reality, no. When you look at the stock market, how the stock market reacted to certain news and, why stock market crash happened is because investors do not act rationally all the time. And that's why I would caution people, especially when you ask the question about, if they are already not in great financial situation, right? Maybe they have limited resources already, and they may only have less than $50,000 retirement saving in a company 401k plan. And this is the time to be very prudent and act based on the disciplined principle of investing. You should not try to time the market. Even professionals make mistakes trying to time the market because you have to be right both ways. If you say, I'm going to get out of the stock market, well, you need to be right when you're going to get back to the stock market. You need to be correct both times.
Right.
If they already have the money invested, it's good to review and work with someone like professional if they are not confident in terms of what to do. But I would caution everyone, just do not take action based on fear. And if they do that, it's very frequent to make the temporary losses permanent.
Echo, what about individuals who are on a fixed income, such as the elderly and those who are disabled, people that aren't able to work? What type of financial hit will they have to endure? And what should they be thinking about going forward? I know that you said that we're in this for the long haul. What do these individuals have to be worried about or aware of going forward?
Yeah, it's so difficult for people who rely on fixed income nowadays because the interest rate is 0% interest rate environment. So if we think about, for the savers, if they have the money, mainly, let's say if they are relying on Social Security and maybe they have very small amount coming out of retirement fund. At this moment, it's difficult to earn greater return if they invest everything in the fixed income, like in bonds and CDs and savings. So for those people, I would say at this moment, especially when you mention about who are disabled or cannot work, I personally think that they absolutely need to start looking into all kinds of government assistance programs here. Because yes, they will, as I mentioned earlier, they will need to review their budget carefully and, only spend money on essential stuff. But if they do not have ability to work at this time, it's very difficult to tell them to, hey, now great opportunity to invest in the stock market after the market crash. So it's kind of like for the people who at this time are not able to work, my suggestion is if they are still able to learn in terms of getting additional education and certification and learn to be adaptable. I do need to emphasize on the being adaptable because businesses and individuals, if we have to deal with this coronavirus for 2 to 3 years, I'm talking about even if we have vaccine and people are able to, get a test quickly and control, and we will still need time for many businesses to get back to normal because many businesses cannot work remotely 100%. But I think for people at this time, find ways to learn new skills online. There are courses you can take online that you can get certain certification. Even, if you do some research and find out, okay, these are the works in the future that I could potentially make some money, you will have to open your mind to think about, okay, I cannot do, let's say, this work I traditionally do. But if somebody right now who is still relatively young, I'm not talking about extremely young. I mean, even for people who are 65, I would still say to them, 65 is not old because if you have 20 years ahead of you, the world will change so rapidly in the next several years. We all need to learn to adapt. So my advice to these people would be, of course, focus on what you can control in terms of the budget. Do your best to ask for help, either from a government or from nonprofit organization. And not only asking for money. In addition, ask for any work opportunities or just even find out what potential jobs will be there for them and start doing training on their own. So I think if this goes on for the next 2 to 3 years, the reason why I say 2 to 3 years is even for the stock market crash for the past, let's say, very bad financial crisis, 2008 and 2009, yes, it does take 2 to 3 years, as you can see, it goes down and then could take another 2 to 3 years to come back. I'm talking about stock market, right? Mm-hmm. So for people, they will have to endure, look in their portfolio. Sometimes they have to know, do I have enough cash flow and the reserve to endure the next 5 years so that I do not have to sell my stock portfolio to pay my living, the essential living expenses? Because if you are prepared for that and say, you know what, I have reviewed this myself or with my financial advisor, then they are more focused on what they can control in terms of learning new skills and adapting and look for a different kind of job when this whole thing is over. So my advice for people is I understand it's extremely challenging for people who rely on fixed income. But at the same time, we also need to be reminded our last generations, when they had to endure the World War I, they had the Spanish flu, millions and millions of people were killed, right?
That was also in Philadelphia.
Oh my goodness. So, I was reading something recently, some kind of documentary, I think on YouTube, you can definitely watch something about what happened last time. And the first round killed many million people, but then they opened up. The second round killed a lot more people. than the first round. So I personally feel that we can look at what happened in the history, how these people had to survive. They actually had to survive. For me, I know it's difficult for a lot of people, but I want to encourage people that we want to plan ahead and we want to stay healthy. And there are something we can do in the meantime to prepare for the future by being more adaptable and learning more about financial planning, learning more about how successful investing could actually happen to them, even though they can start with small amount of money. So it's time to get, re-educated.
It's interesting that you said that, because I was having a conversation with a relative of mine. We've been having this conversation on and off, but essentially it seems as though the coronavirus pandemic was almost like a reset for the world. So, and essentially, like you're saying right now, more people are kind of like having to forcibly come into 20th or 22nd century forcibly and learning these new types of skills, learning about working via computer or even through their phone, doing certain types of jobs. I know recently there are some free courses online, I think through EDU. Harvard was opening up some classes to individuals, and the Serve Safe Commission or Health and Safety Commission, I think I'm correct in that. I have to check my resources. They are allowing people to take Serve Safe certifications for free. So you're right. There are a lot of other opportunities that are opening up to the public. Let's go on to Medicare, because that is a huge, huge thing for many of our seniors out there. Even before the pandemic, what about now? What will people in the age of 60, 70, and 80, what should they be aware of dealing with this? Is there anything that's going to change for them? Is there anything that they should be prepared for as things go forward? Because like you said, this could be a 2 to 3 year thing, not so much maybe the actual shock and all that we received from coronavirus, but just the changes that we're going to be going through going forward.
Yeah, Medicare is such a huge issue that could, I personally, I don't consider myself as an expert in Medicare, but as whatever I have learned about Medicare is we already know the U.S. system is not efficient. The entire U.S. healthcare system is not efficient at all.
Echo, there's a whole bunch of people that just heard you said that just applauded right now.
I didn't grow up here. I came here when I was 20 years old. So I lived in China. And I personally don't think, even when I was here, I mean, now, 20 some years now, I am still kind of confused about why we have U.S. healthcare system that even an expert can't even figure it out. I personally feel like if I study so hard about how things work in the capital market as a financial advisor for 20 some years, the topic of the Medicare and then relates to all this healthcare system. And I did my research trying to help my parents who came to the US and I was like, wow, this is so complicated. And at the same time, all the data show that people are not getting better care, even though we spend a lot more money per capita than most advanced countries. So I know something has to be fixed. And of course, we right now, if the country, the economy is slowing down for a longer term, I think it's not as easy for people to say, well, we are going to have a quick fix here. I think it's going to be difficult for somebody to say, well, now we are going to fix all the issues. And on the other hand, I feel like politicians will also need to consider long-term impact. There are things that have to be fixed sooner so that they could actually make some positive impact, let's say 5 to 10 years down the road. Because if you kick the can down the road forever, it's going to be worse 10 years from now for the new administration. 10 years down the road, come back and say, oh my God, blame the last how many presidents or the administrations. So I personally feel like in the short term, doesn't feel like it will get better. Right now. I don't feel like it will get better. So for people who are in that situation right now, I mean, either close to 65 or already currently using Medicare, unfortunately, I would say they may just have to put up with more reserves for additional out-of-pocket medical expenses, because it's outrageous for people to pay hundreds of dollars for a prescription drug. They have to go to Canada to get the drug. It's very crazy. Mexico or Canada, I mean, we are right next to Canada. There are buses going up to Canada to buy cheaper drugs. So unfortunately, the news for people who are there is they have to plan for probably more in out-of-pocket expenses. That unfortunately, it's always hard to tell people if the government program is not that secure or they are not going to make a big change. The harder thing for me to say to people, even for the people who are not 65, unfortunately, in this country, I wish everybody can enroll in a program like similar to Medicare. This is my wish list. I would say, if they have a program that's similar to Medicare, but I mean, just take care of everybody for the basic needs. Like you can get your basic health care through a program that is run efficiently across the country. So you don't have to figure out if you lose your job, you could go bankrupt within a few months when you don't have health coverage. So I also believe that when we don't have a good healthcare system that's basic and takes care of everyone, we discourage people to start their own businesses. So the entrepreneurship is not encouraged in this country, because this actually relates to myself too. Even though I started my business when I was much younger, it was before I had a child. And I said to myself, I was thinking, if I don't give this a try, when will I, right? I mean, I was thinking I have no children. And I was relatively healthy in my early 30s. And so, when I went out to start my own firm, I really thought of the biggest obstacle for people to start their business was healthcare in the U.S. So I wish someone can change something in this U.S. healthcare system so that more people are able to go and start new businesses, and in terms of innovation that will actually help the economy in the long term. Another thing I also want the politicians to consider is that we need better coordinated effort in this country to deal with pandemics. It's crazy to think about. We all acknowledge this is pandemic, but then we were like, okay, let each state fight about like a bidding on the mask.
Right.
It's kind of like it just doesn't make sense. That's how very advanced country and a rich country, I mean, we consider ourselves like rich country, to deal with a pandemic that millions of people eventually could die.
Hey everyone, we hope that you're enjoying the interview thus far. We'd just like to take some quick time out to remind everybody to like, follow, share, and subscribe. With every like, follow, share, and subscription, it helps the Daylight Fit podcast to grow. And the more we grow, the more information we can bring to you, the listener. So please take some time out, like, follow, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
I mean, we don't know right now, right? I mean, if this thing drags longer, it could be really bad when we don't have the coordinated effort to deal with pandemic. So I feel like if we had a better healthcare system, that will certainly give people the safety net, ultimately will stimulate the U.S. economy. So I hope more politicians are listening and say, you know what, I came from another country. So when I talk to people who are not Americans, it's not difficult for them to understand my point of view. They're like, oh yeah, I think it needs to be more coordinated. But I said, no, it's not here. In the U.S., we don't see that here.
You're totally right. It is something, it seems like there is a confusion about how things are to be organized and put together. And it seems as though, I can't even say like it's a confusion that is by mistake. You know what I mean? Like when there's a difference when there's a confusion because, we're not communicating properly. But it seems as though this is a communication problem that is put there for a reason, which is there is a want of a communication problem, which I mean, I think for a lot of us citizens, there's a not real feeling of wanting to fix the problem. Let's go on to some more things because I want to talk about your book because you have some tips that I think will be very beneficial for a lot of our listeners going forward with everything that is taking place. And I think you just released the book. Was it 2 days ago? Was it a few days ago you just released your book?
Yeah, May 5th. Yes, ebook. Thank you. Yeah, ebook was released on May 5th, and hardcover will be released on June 9th. I do want to talk about. I will get into a little bit more about the book. I do want to take the opportunity to give some people ideas about creating a solid investment plan. The reason for it is, yes, right now, I know many people are concerned about cash flow. I absolutely believe the cash flow planning is important. So certainly, as I mentioned about the budgeting, you need to look at your cash money coming in and money going out and create a cash flow plan for the next 5 years. The reason why detailed plans are important is when you are in this market downturn that could last for 5 to 6 years for the stock market, people need to start taking some steps. So I want to give people some idea about this. And then, of course, if they want to read more, learn more, they can read my book as well. I do want to talk about, there are many things financial advisors do. So we, as a financial advisor, we definitely help clients with the cash flow planning, tax planning. We review insurance, including, life insurance, disability insurance. We help clients with estate planning, helping them, think about what will or trust, healthcare directives, and financial power of attorney. And we work with estate attorney to help them implement. The other thing that I do on a regular basis is obviously investment. I manage more than $100 million for more than 80 households right now. And so when I think about what people should be thinking about right now, they need to learn about the basic steps on investment plans. So I want to say the first one is goal setting and preparing the investment plan. So think about the goal setting. We are talking about understanding how much they can save for retirement. That is one goal, right? So for example, you need to define when you want to retire. You need to know where you are today. So it's important for them to know if they don't even know where they are today, there's no way they can get to where they want to go.
When you say where they are today, delve deeper into that.
Okay. First, they need to understand their net worth. Okay. Net worth is for people to list all their assets together. Their assets could be the home value, investment accounts, checking, saving balances. But then they also need to list all the debt, liabilities, right? So you put your mortgage, your car loan, whatever, student loan. And if you have asset minus liabilities, you equal to net worth. When it's a positive number, that's a good start because you have positive net worth to start. And the goal of financial planning is to help that person increase net worth over time by saving diligently and investing wisely over time to get to where they want to go. Well, when they say, I want to retire by age 65 or 67, well, that is the time frame from where you are right now. You need to grow your net worth all the way by the time you say, my work becomes optional. So that's the financial independence day. Well, we need to do some calculation. What needs to happen on the saving end and investment return that is required to get your current net worth right now, grow to projected net worth on your, let's say, use example 65. But we also need to continue project from age 65. If your life expectancy is 85 or 90, we need to project that's enough to last your lifetime. So it's as you think about, the goal setting, we want people to think about most people's number one goal is probably retirement. And then the second thing, if they want to support their children's education, we need to do similar projection, but the time is very short when you have to help your children to pay for college, and it's crazy expensive right now. Exactly. And so I think the first step is definitely setting the goal. What we normally do is to help clients assess their risk tolerance. We want to help them understand the time frame until they need to start withdrawing. And then we calculate how much they need from their portfolio. So I think a good financial advisor will never skip the planning phase. So just make sure the financial advisor covers the help client with stating their objective, the goal, with the time frame, and help them project. And once you have the dreams and goals in place, using some kind of planning tool is going to be really helpful. And the one I use is Echo Dashboard. So I can run different scenarios to show client and say, based on the risk you are willing to take and based on your current lifestyle, we are calculating assumption of rate of return needs to earn 5% per year or 6% per year. And we can show them using the tool and say, if right now looks like based on your current spending and saving, you may not achieve your retirement goal at age 65, but we can suggest some changes, either delay retirement or combination of cutting expenses or increase income. So it's important, the first step, to help client understand cash flow and come up with a assumption for investment return and also the risk they're willing to take, because each person is different. So that's the step one. So the step two, I really want people to think about. Step two is actually how to think about risk. And as you can just imagine, every investment has risk, right? I mean, most people will think about, I know stock market, you could lose a lot of money if you're not careful. Well, that is one risk. That's the market risk. But if you don't invest at all,
that's a bigger
you're
risk.
missing out, right?
Right.
So sometimes people don't think about, not investing. They are actually taking more risk in terms of achieving their goals, right? Some people just like, I don't want to risk anything. Well, you have a choice. If you don't take any risk at all, you just let the money sit in savings account. Even CDs doesn't even pay you 2%, okay? So the inflation is greater.
I'm sorry, but I'm just curious. What would you recommend going in as an investment? Would it be the stock market, or what would it be? Or what are the potential other things to invest in?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is why I want to talk about how to think about risk. So Therefore, people need to think about risk in terms of not really like losing all the money you have. So first, they need to think about the risk is, when I'm talking about risk, I'm talking about the volatility or the temporary value change in your portfolio. Assuming you diversify, assuming that you're not just picking out 5 stocks and hope they do well. Remember, the philosophy is if you invest in many different type of investment, it could be stocks, different type of stocks in the US, globally, and you can invest in different type of bonds and, short-term bond, intermediate-term bond, government bond, and real estate. And of course, we always want people to have certain money in cash, like in savings account, right? So I want people to think about risk. So the question to ask when preparing the investment plan is not, can you tolerate the loss of your investment, but rather, how much of a swing in value can you tolerate? So think about that. If you ask someone and, someone come to you with $1 million, if you ask them, are you okay with losing 30%? That's 300,000. Almost everybody would say no. Right?
That's my first response. No.
Like lifetime to get to $1 million, and now they come to me and hand over $1 million for me to invest. Huge responsibility for me. And when I want to ask them and try to figure out how much risk that person is willing to take, I want people to understand by using various tools to ask different type of questions to get them to understand. I'm not asking them whether they are willing to lose 30%. I'm asking them the short-term basis, 6 months, I can show them a scenario. The very good scenario, you could earn 15%, but very bad scenario, you could lose 12% over 6 months. But then I need to show them a really severe market downturn, like 2 to 3 years. I need to show them. So the way they can see is, yes, there are risks they can take, but potential return could be 5-6% return over the long term. So it's important for me to explain during the market downturn. Remember that's valued paper loss. Remember they are paper loss unless you sell it, right? They are not true loss unless you make them permanent loss. So the way I explain is, let's look at the volatility in a way that the values can change over different period of time. And I want to see if they could stay invested during the volatile market. So they need to do the stress test. You know what I'm talking about? Stress tests are so critical. And I tell every single client, for the past 11 years, people, clients have seen great stock market, right, with return. And they came to me and I said, let's do some stress tests. Let's do some stress tests, meaning if 2008 and 2009 repeats, well, we just like right now, we don't call it financial crisis at this round. Maybe we call it coronavirus crisis, right?
Right.
But the market had a sudden drop, but we don't know when it's going to recover. We need to have that test and see how they will react, and also be able to explain, if we want you to continue and stay with this strategy, what do you need to do to set aside in terms of emergency fund for sure, but then also explain to them, if I construct a 60% in stock market portfolio, there is a 40% in bond. I want them to remember that, when they hear from the news, S&P 500 lost 20%. I want them to think about, they don't have 100% of their money invested in S&P 500. They need to immediately remember the stress test that I have done, so they can remember and say, oh yeah, I have 60% investment in stock market, and it's globally, and it's all types of stocks, some large company, small company, and I still have 40% in all kinds of bonds, and including government bonds. Government bonds has done well during this market crash.
So what you're saying essentially is that there's never really a loss in the extreme sense that we fear in our head. It's more like discipline, and there's percentage losses that you're going to incur.
Yeah, and I actually use dollars instead of percentages.
Okay.
Because I explained to you in the percentages right now, but for each client, it means more when they can relate to dollars and based on their actual portfolio. Remember when I say, what happened if you lose 300,000? You give me $1 million, right? You give me $1 million. And, if we choose majority in the stock market, that could actually happen, because we have done the testing back to, 2 market crashes, the major ones in the past 15 years. And they can see how long it may take for them to get back to where they were. So in a way, I explained that in terms of dollar. So I want people how to think risk properly. Another point I want to make is market downturns are not all bad. Remember the other side of the coin, right? One side of the coin, people are like, oh my God, market crash, I'm scared.
Right.
But think about the other side of the coin. Well, as you know, many people must invest for the long term. Even for people who are 60, if they have life expectancy to 85, their 25 years is long term, right? Even for retirees.
Okay.
The reason for it is their portfolio, very big portion of it, they should not touch for 10 years anyway. So you have to look at a portfolio. I'm using $1 million right now. Look at a portfolio and think, yes, I am either 60 or 65, but if I'm going to live to 85, big portion of it has to grow. And you are not supposed to touch the entire thing anyway. You are supposed not to withdraw more than 4% of your balance per year in order for the portfolio to sustain for over 30 years. So in a way, I have to explain to them and say, I'm going to carve out this and say, this is not a bad situation if you are investing. Because if you have more money to put in, when the market dropped 25% at discount, buying 25% of your money for the long term is actually a good entry point for new money to get into the market. So market crash is not all bad for everybody. And for me, if I help clients plan ahead and educate them upfront how to deal with market crash, because, when market started crashing, if you haven't done the planning, you just panic or call someone and say, I must get out of the market. Well, that's exactly the wrong thing to do. So therefore, I think it's more important for people to think about, okay, during market crash, it's a temporary loss if I already have planned for it. So for example, if the market dropped, your 60% in stock market, maybe 50% in stock market now because the market dropped, right? The 60-40 allocation may have changed to 50-50 allocation. It's a great time to review. The reason for that is, remember, we always want people to have an emergency fund. Now it's just good to review that again and say, do I have enough emergency fund? Do I look at detailed cash flow for the next 5 to 6 years? Where is my money coming from to pay my regular bills? So if you understand that, then I would say for a lot of my clients during this past 4 months, I actually rebalance their portfolio. What that means is now you are selling some bonds and buying some stocks. Get it back to the 60-40 allocation.
I understand what you're saying.
You know what I'm talking about? It's not easy for individual investors to do.
You know what? I love what it is that you're saying, because I'm taking it in from my own profession as the fact of being a physical trainer and how it's all about your physical health. So how are you perceiving not how your body looks right now, but how your body and your physical health is going to be as you continue to put what it is in practice? And that's what I like about what you're doing right there. Echo, do me a favor. I would love for you to tell people where they can get your book, because from listening to what you're saying, this is a book that people need to listen to, because it can start to clear away the myths of what finance is. Because a lot of people are very shaken when it comes to money, and I think your book can actually help them see that it's not the perception of it's a great loss, it's a continuous loss, it's a lot more in depth. So where can people get your book?
Yes, I would love people to check out my new website, ownyourfuture.guru. Guru. So the book name is Own Your Future.
Nice.
The website is ownyourfuture.guru. As you probably know, I really want to be a wealth management guru for as many people as possible by writing this book. So it's really important for me to spread the message of wealth management is complicated, but it doesn't have to be. If you learn from my book, obviously, the process and how to manage your emotions and how to assemble a dream team, and what kind of people you can connect and help you plan ahead. Many examples in my book are, based on my 20-some years of experience. So I have a chapter about financial independence day. I have a chapter about long-term care insurance. And there is one chapter about estate planning. There is a chapter about tax strategies.
And I think
Yeah, and the last chapter is a charitable giving. As you know, we are in this together, and there are many generous people when they have achieved financial independence. They also want to give back to the community. So I have a last chapter in my book to talk about how people can do that very tax efficiently in terms of giving money to the community. So I really want people to check out the website, ownyourfuture.guru. And I have all my social media information there, and just get in touch with me. Right now, there are limited offers on buying the ebook and also buying the hard copy. So people should check it out. Yeah, I just want to get the words out. And because for me, right now is more than ever how important it is to give people hope. And when I came to the U.S. by myself at age 20 with $800, I was definitely very hopeful, even though I was very broke. I really want people to think about where they are right now. And of course, I'm sharing that story about my own journey as a new immigrant. What I had to learn the first 5 years in the U.S., it's a total different society, and how I actually had to survive here. And then later, I decided to get into wealth management because I realized I really loved helping people with their money. And so by writing this book, I am able to share that. And I hope people can see this as a much needed help in terms of giving them hope during very uncertain times, and also make them believe in themselves. If I could come here and be successful 20-some years later, many people can do that as well. So hopefully they can learn so much from a book and start taking some actions.
Echo Haung, everybody. Echo, we're going to have to get you to come back on here because I like the way that you break it down when it comes to finance. And I think that part of what we do here, that 360 degree of holistic fitness and health, you're explaining it in a way whereas people can start to think of it whereas, it's not an instant A to B. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And that's going to be paramount and pivotal as we go forward with this new world that we have entered into, which if we do the right thing, if we look the right way, if we don't just take the negative out of it, and there is indeed some negatives, but if we do the right thing and look appropriately, we can all come out in a very progressive and positive manner. So again, thank you, Echo, for coming back to the show.
I am so pleased to have the conversation with you. And I definitely believe that health and wealth go together. I actually have example to say that in my book, because it's so important that we do something to take care of both. And personally, I have been riding on the Peloton bike more than ever. You're also, don't forget to say, you're also an accomplished dancer. And I forget, ballroom dancer. I am a serious amateur ballroom dancer, and I compete in Pro-Am, International Latin and International Ballroom with my professional partner, Jean Burston. So yeah, definitely that's another serious passion. And I believe it's good for my health, and I can do better at work because I enjoy dancing.
Do you think you're ever going to turn pro?
Too late now. If I were 16, I would consider that, but not in my 40s.
Come on now.
In my 40s, I think my experience and talents are probably much better used in writing the book and teaching people about how to manage their money.
Well, thank you, Echo. We appreciate you and your experience and your education for coming back to the show. And again, we're going to definitely try to book for you to come back because people need this type of conversation. We need to start really re-educating ourselves on the realities of life and how things really work, not how we've been told that they work, not how we watch them on TV or movies. They work in a specific manner, and it's time that we all start to actually learn how things work so that we can, for a better future, maneuver ourselves in a positive, progressive manner. And it's people like you that's going to make that happen.
Oh, thank you, Sun Moon. And we will definitely be in touch. And I would urge your listeners to check out my website and send me messages too, because they can join my community so that in the future I can share tips. And I plan to publish blogs continuously on the website, and people can probably already see quite a few right now on the website. And so I'm working on something new going forward, using more video and blog posts to educate people. So I really hope people can spread the positive news, and I would love to be back again.
Awesome. And everybody that is listening and tuning in, please, if you have LinkedIn or if you have social media, check out Echo Haung. She is very active. She is always delivering very good, precise information, and she is a joy to talk to, specifically with her passion of finance. Echo, thank you so much for joining us again.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Hey, you, with the earbuds in their ear. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? When I was trying to get my podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcasts. I like to upload my episodes directly to the app and then promote. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, make money doing it. Go to anchor.fm/start to join me in the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. I just wanted to take the time out to thank Echo for coming back to the show and giving us the benefits of her experience, her energy, and her passion where it comes into financial knowledge, how to build wealth, how to take care of your financial fitness. Something that is very important where it comes to us in general as individuals. We talk about it all the time. 360 degrees of holistic fitness and health is just not a nice tagline. It's something that we do our best to live by. And the reason we're promoting this is because you have to not only have physical health and fitness, physical and mental, spiritual. You need all of this, and we need our finances so that we can matriculate throughout society, so that we can pay for our mortgages, so that we can pay the bills, so that we can have a house to live in, so that we can perhaps send our children to college or to better schools to be trained in different skills and things that they can explore and express and build off of, like stairs for us to climb. It's all about progression. So it is so great to have her on the show. And again, Echo, we know she is tremendously busy promoting her book, which is Own Your Future, One Woman's Story of Immigration and Financial Freedom. A tremendous read. I am going to get this book as soon as possible, but I've read some of the narratives that Amazon shares. But I am so excited for Echo, and I'm so pleased that she was able to come to the show. Just some alerts about what's taking place here at the De La Fit Podcast. We are going to start doing interviews, video interviews as well. So you will be able to tune in and watch us on on our YouTube channel, which is what is our YouTube channel? What do we know it is? Oh, you can find us at De La Fit Podcast on YouTube, and we will start doing actual video interviews. It's a process that we have been taking our time getting involved in. Actually, we were going to start the process last year when we moved into our studio in downtown Philadelphia in the Fashion District, but unfortunately, or I should say, as we all know, things took place, and bada bing, bada boom, pandemic life changed a lot. So we are slowly moving into this new process, but I know it's going to be amazing. We've got some amazing people that are going to be joining us in the future, which you all will be able to watch us now, not just hear us on the many different platforms that we are. And it's not that we don't like what we're doing. We love the podcast. We love the fact that people can hear us and sit down and listen to what it is that we're discussing, and all of those ear delights that we bring to you, which at least we hope we're bringing to you. But we want to, of course, progress into bigger and better things for you. And we believe, again, it's back to that 360, touching your senses in every way. And many people can connect in different ways, which is why we are progressing in this category. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have some great interviews with some amazing people very soon that you can actually sit down and watch on your phone or on your whatever device that you're holding in front of you or that you use. So that'll be coming soon. And of course, we will always keep the podcast going, because the podcast is where it all comes from. It's where we started. It's the birth of this movement. And this is a movement that we are incurring, that's taking place right now. You know, many things are changing as we go forward. So I'm so excited about those changes, and I look forward to continuing those amazing movements and changes and progressions with you, the listeners. As always, if you like what it is that we're doing here, we love to hear from you. You can reach out to us at our email, which is delafit13@gmail.com. Hey, I remembered it, guys. I got it right this time. You can also follow us on our social media accounts, which are at Facebook, De La Fit Podcast. We are also on Twitter at De La Fit Podcast, and we are also on Instagram. That's right, we're on the gram at Day_LA_Fit Podcast. So you can always find us on all of those wonderful social media accounts. And we look forward. We also have a website. That's right, guys. We have www.delafitpodcast.com, where you can find out other things that we're doing, other information. So please don't be a stranger. We like to talk to you all with whatever platform is viable and good for you. We're going to get ready to sign out because we've got some amazing things going on. I've actually got an interview getting ready to come up with an amazing athlete who we're going to be bringing to you soon. I believe him to be a Guinness World Record holder. I don't know if I should put it out there, but I'm going to put it out there. We're going to be talking to Adam Sandell, and it's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm excited about this. So we're going to get ready to end this broadcast right here. But I thank all of you for tuning in. I always like to do this podcast with many of you, which I call my digital family. And I'm always energized by your feedback. And I'm always energized by this creative resource, this creative platform that we have been so blessed to have. I hope that you're able to take positive things from this and bring it back to your lives. Those of you that are listening in, because that's what it's all about. It's about progression, and it's about positive progression, not regression, progression or progression. I think I'm saying it correctly. Sometimes I mess those up, but I think you all know what I'm talking about out there. It's about being a better you. That's what it's really about. That's what everything is going to, no matter what it is we're dealing with at these times, we can take the bad and we can look at it and say, oh, woe is me, the world is ending. Or we can flip it around and we can say, you know what, this is time for change. This is birth of change. And that's what this is. It's time for us all to thrive. It's time for us all to progress. It's time for humanity to be what it can be, the amazing, beautiful flower that it can be. I want it. Do you want it? I want us to be the best we can be, because guess what? Humanity can be amazing. With all of the negatives that it can also be amazing. And I want it to be beautiful and amazing and positive. I think it's about time. Don't you? As always, please be safe. Remember, we are the village and each one teach one. And don't forget to treat yourself right. Take care of yourself. Look after yourself. Tell yourself you're an amazing individual. Treat yourself right. Pat yourself on the back and be fair with yourself. Because I know if you're doing those things, then guess what? You're going to treat me and others fairly because you're treating yourself fairly. As always, be safe, be happy, be healthy. Peace.
You've been listening to the Della Fit podcast. Ta-ta for now.